Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Grief Support Group. I'm your host, Alex Piscatelli. And today, it's a very special episode indeed, because what I am doing is instead of recording in my normal place of KSFS Radio at San Francisco State University, I am instead recording from my home studio here in undisclosed location in the San Francisco Bay Area. What this means for you is hopefully nothing. Hopefully, I really beg and pray that the sound sounds good. I think it does. I have wires galore. I think it's going really well. What this means for me is that Dory gets to lay next to me, mascot of Grief and Media, my cat, my daughter, my friend, my sister, all of the above, my right hand arm man. She's amazing. I love her. This is going to be exciting. This is going to be cool. I went into the studio this morning ready to rock and roll. I had like a set playlist. It was going to be great. And my show wasn't recording. Of course, I am here for my recorded listeners and not my live listeners. A shout out to husband of Grief and Media. But no, that's okay. The other thing that's good about this is I could also say fuck. Like I can also say bad words because I couldn't say it on the radio. We'll see how that comes out. Maybe I'm in practice of not doing that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. But this is Grief Support Group. This is the show where I talk about pop culture, my research on grief and media, and I answer your advice questions. So I'm so excited for today's episode. I'm going to talk a little, I'm not going to go crazy in the intro because the advice questions I wanted to spend some time on, but I do have a thesis update for you all. And then I have advice questions on inviting an ex to a wedding and talking about a past loved one with a new relationship. So I'm so excited to get to those. But first, we're here. It's so interesting because I'm sitting at my desk. My desk is bright ass red. Okay, there's the second curse word I've said on this episode. I love my bright ass red desk. And I just have all these wires galore, really. They're all going out and about, but it makes me feel so professional. Going in the studio, I guess, makes me feel professional too. But this is a taste of freedom, I suppose you could say. I could run out and about. I could have a coffee next to me. I have a Labubu in my sight. It's an interesting sight to be seen. But yeah, no, I'm so excited to be here. And I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot because once I graduate and I am done with San Francisco State, which is coming up in less than 2 months, which is so crazy to me. But I don't know if I'll continue my show on KSFS. I know I will continue talking to you all in some capacity. And I will continue doing Grief Support Group, and I will be doing many, many grief and media things. But yeah, the avenue to which I do these things is to be determined. But hey, this is a trial run, and we'll see what Dory thinks. We'll let her be the final say. Okay, I think one thing I first wanted to talk about that I'm so excited about is I made a grief and media zine, and I'm going to be mailing it out to people. I'm going to do it right after I finish recording, and I literally love it. I'm so excited. I think zines, I already make a ton of zines. I think this was zine number 8 for me, and I started making zines last May. So almost, not really one a month, but one every 2 months at least, more than that. But yeah, I made one for Grief and Media, and I think for people who listen, so literally message me if you want one and I'll get it in your hands somehow. But what I'm going to do in these zines is I'm going to write about latest updates. I talk about how I'm doing, how mascot of Grief and Media Dory is doing, and then I give a little update on research or the podcast or what have you, business updates. What can you do as a CEO? You must do business updates. And then I also have movie and book or whatever recommendations. So this is something I'm going to put out every quarter. If you would like one, please give me a message because I will be mailing these out soon. But I think I want to start doing monthly Grief and Media zines. I've been okay, what is the podcast? What is Grief and Media gonna look like? once I graduate. And I know that I've announced on here that I'm going to be having a video series, which is coming in about a month now, which I'm super excited for. But I really treat grief and media like it's my baby. It's like a business situation I have going on. It's a creative project. It's my home. It's my, you know what I mean? Like it's all these things to me. And I think everything that I do and that I want to put forward is so intertwined with grief and media, right? It's exploring. I had like revamped the About page, which I think I had talked about, and I had rebranded a little bit grief and media, that it's this intersection of grief and relationships and media and pop culture. And I'm exploring this intersection, right? And I think everything that I'm working on, whether it's my research for this, for this program that I'm in right now, or if it's for like this podcast or whatever I'm working on, all these things touch upon it, and they all are living under this grief and media brand. Whatever. I'm being like annoying. I feel like I sound like a CEO or something. I'm not trying to sound like Kim Kardashian, like get your fucking ass up and work. Like I don't feel that way. Only about myself, I guess. But yeah, it's just like really fun working on this, and I'm just so happy you all are here. And I think it's really funny. Like I have been really trying to be more in the moment in life. Like I'm trying to be more out and about. I'm trying to enjoy nature. I had mentioned before that like I went on hikes, and I was like, who needs to think about career when you're on this beautiful hike and you see the beautiful water and everything's just so incredible and amazing. And then I spend the whole 2 hours on the hike talking about grief and media and talking about wanting to teach and wanting to do all these things. And I think for me, it's because career is so deeply intertwined with the things that I'm passionate about and the things that I want to create and put out in the world. So yeah, I don't know. What can you do? But I have been watching the sunsets more, which is a habit I got into when I was living in Maine. I think when I was living in Maine, there was like nothing else to do. So I was like, well, I guess I might as well watch the sunset, right? And when I lived in Maine, there was this outlook in Portland, in the West End in Portland. And you looked out and it was just so much of the city. And everyone says like it's so freaky, like when you live in on a different coast or whatever, because the sun sets in a different landscape. Like obviously here in California, when you live on the coast, like you see the sunset by water, right? But in Maine, obviously it's sunsetting into just like land. But I didn't find it that particularly jarring. I more found it like, oh my God, this is cool. Like the sunset I'm seeing is the one that people are going to see in the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And it kind of made me feel almost less alone in that way. And I feel like that's changed my perspective a lot, because I remember living in San Diego, and particularly, I mean, I think in high school when I would have summer breaks and different things, it would be really hard for me to go to bed at night. And then during COVID, like when I was out of my routine and out of the sync, that was happening again. I was going to bed at like 3 or 4. And I would have these moments where I was like, I feel so alone. Like I feel like I'm the only one going to bed so late, and everyone is asleep. Obviously not in the world, but I was thinking of people I know who live across America, like everyone's asleep except for me. And I really liked that feeling of being on the East Coast and being like, okay, even if it's 1 a.m. and I feel like I should be going to bed, like so many people I love who live in California are still awake and are probably, watching a show or getting ready for bed, or maybe even eating dinner at this point. And it made me feel less alone in that way. It's just like that communal experience of knowing other people are kind of doing things as you're like laying in bed trying to go to sleep, if that makes sense. And I don't know, that idea has now been reframed for me, where like I used to feel really alone in California, and now I feel not alone. I don't know, lesson learned, LOL. But like, I don't know how else to explain it except for just that feeling. And then I remember like, actually Jack said this, where he was like, even if you're going to bed at 4 a.m., like there's someone waking up and like baking bread for like a bakery or something. Did he say that? I might have like quoted that to him, but it was like someone who wasn't him that said that. I don't know. Anyway, it's reframed my thing. all is this to say, I'm going on a complete tangent, but what I wanted to say originally is that I have appreciated the sunset since I lived in Maine, but I've been watching the sunset here as much as I can. I've been like, you know what I love in a day is going out to go watch the sunset. So I've been watching the sunset. And what happens when I watch the sunset? Any guesses? Any takers? It's that I have ideas for zines. Okay. I watch a sunset and I'm like, oh my God, life is beautiful. Everything's beautiful. The sun's beautiful. The sky's beautiful. Oh, wait. I should run back in the house and go write on my laptop for my zine. So that's the kind of passion and the kind of artistic vision that I swear that you are getting in these zines. But I think what this tells me is I'm really good at writing zines, and what I'm not good at is writing my thesis. Okay, that's not what I'm good at. But before I get into my thesis question or whatever, oh my God, I'm rambling. Well, before I get into my thesis, part of this show. First, I also want to talk about Survivor a little bit, because I feel like, to me, this season's kind of pissing me off. I don't know if anyone is watching Survivor season 50. Yes, the landmark season. Everyone's so excited. Oh my God, this shit is pissing me off. So last night, obviously, was a new episode, and it was Charlie and Angelina who went home. And already, like, I was finding it weird because this season just had a lot of, like, Angelina is a character who was so massive when she was on the show. She was on season 37, David versus Goliath, and she was a huge character. Just like lack of self-awareness, but in a very funny way. Like, she would negotiate with Jeff, and like she would be like, oh, I climbed 100 feet, but it was like a 6-foot ladder. Like, it was so just such a incredible Survivor character, like genuinely one for the Survivor history books, right? And then they put her on this landmark season 50, and they don't even edit her on the show. She got eliminated last night, and she had like no moments throughout the season so far. And I've been noticing this a lot, where a lot of the women have like no confessionals. So here's the thing you have to understand. If you are not in the Survivor fandom, what people are obsessed with, and I thought this was like a universal term, it is not. There's this term called edgic, and it's something that originated from the Survivor fan base. Again, I talked about edgic in my media aesthetics and production theory class I took last semester, because I thought it was something that everyone knew. No, this is a Survivor nerd thing that I know because of the Survivor fandom, okay? But it's edit and logic like mixed together. Edgic. And so what this means is people will study the edit and make whatever logical decisions based on, or like predictions for who they think will win, who they think will go far, who are going to be big characters, etc. And this is like everyone gets a scale from very positive to very negative. And then they also get a scale from like having an overtop personality or under the radar or whatever. And then there's also like complex characters, and there's just different signifiers that they give people. I don't get that far deep into it. I don't give the ranking. I don't look at the over the top, look at whatever. The decisions I make are very intuitive. Okay. I am watching the show and I'm being like, none of these women are getting confessionals. And it's true. And, so I've been noticing that. And so because people are so obsessed with reading the edit, if you're in the Survivor fandom, there are people, I think the account that maybe originated it, but I could be wrong, is called Survivor Fact Checker. Yes, I do follow them. Just go to go to who I'm following on Instagram. But Survivor Fact Checker will put out after each episode how many confessionals each character got. Of course, if you haven't watched reality TV before, I don't know why you're listening to this, because that's all I talk about. But in case you are unaware, confessionals are what drive a reality TV narrative. Like, of course, you have the host of the show, which is such an integral narrator of the show. But a lot of the characters or reality contestants are the ones who are really driving the narrative, right? They are given these confessionals, which they're sitting in a room, they're talking directly to the camera, they're explaining their thought process, what's going on in the show, what have you, and that is driving what we see as audiences, how we are understanding the show. So if the narrative of the show is mostly being driven by men, it's a man's show. It's all men. And that is exactly what's happening on Survivor. So going back to Jeff Probst as a misogynist, I've talked about this before. And listen, I fucking love Survivor. I'm not like trying to say Jeff Probst is the most awful person in the world. I think there's many aspects of him that are great and that make good decisions. And there's a reason Survivor has been on for 50 seasons, where Love is Blind is going to fail after whatever it's on right now, right? There's a reason Survivor is where it's at. However, I do think the misogyny is coming out. And so I want to read some stats that I screenshotted from Reddit. Okay. So once again, people keep track of these confessional things. So someone on Reddit said, and this is from ACTKMS on the Survivor Reddit, shout out to you. This person said, to put it in reference. So these are people who have had 0 confessional episodes. So what this means is a whole episode happened and they did not have one confessional that was driving the narrative. So of the men, the only people who have 0 confessional episodes were Rick Devens, and Jonathan. Of the women, those who have had 0 confessional episodes, Chrissy 2 times, Tiffany 3 times, Camilla, Sari, Genevieve, Angelina, and Stephanie. That's a shit ton of women compared to the men, right? I'm at curse word number 8. I'm so sorry. Okay, and then another stat I found interesting. Now listen closely. Confessional counts for the men on the season: 35, 34, 17, 16, 15, 12, 11, and 8. That means there's 2 men who have had 34 and 35 confessionals each this season so far. And there is only 1 man who has had less than 10 confessionals total in this season. Now, confessional counts for the woman. Keep in mind it was 35 and 34 for the men. For the woman, 19, 17, 13, 12, 11, 9, 6, 5, and 2. Zach Brown of Zach Brown Band, don't know who that is personally, was given 4 confessionals. He was on last week's episode. He was given 4 confessionals. There's a woman who has only had 2, and her name is Tiffany, and I know exactly who it is. To me, this shit is crazy. So I want to read something from Angelina, who was just voted out of last night's episode. She did an interview. They all do exit press. Again, Survivor, if you're not in the fandom, you don't know how serious this shit is. But they all do an exit press and exit interviews and all of that. So she did exit press, and she did an interview for Entertainment Weekly, and she said, "If you want to know my truth, what I believe, what I see, I think that season 50 feels more like season 15. I think the editors are pulling from a very old formula. I think they're grasping at straws to give the fans what they want. I think that they heard a lot of feedback that in the 40s it was too mushy, too sentimental, and I think they're reverting to some old tricks. And I honestly think it's outdated, and I think there's no place for it in 2026, and I think they need to do better. I feel like the production is failing the woman on this season right now, and I'm not alone in this sentiment. There are a lot of us who are going to be coming out and speaking about this soon, and hopefully if they're still editing the season, they can turn it around and do better for the 12 women who chose to show up and play this celebration season with them, because right now it doesn't feel like a celebration. It feels like a bro fest." Yeah. Which is true. That's all I'm saying. Survivor is so frustrating, and what she's referring to about the 40s being too mushy is people felt like Jeff Probst was really in the quote new era, which was season 41 and above, was trying to make it such a kids show and make it we all get along and we're all friends and there's no conflict and there's no villains, which of course you need a balance of that, right? I don't think we're seeing as many villains because people get so bullied. I mean, Jerry Manthe is like the original Survivor villain who like wasn't even a villain, mind you. And she was like booed off stage and treated horribly, and people went up to her and were so rude to her. And now I think with social media, maybe people are less forthright, like face to face and in person, but like you're probably getting so many hate messages every single second of every single day. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is. And obviously what Angelina is referring to is how the old seasons of Survivor, like back in season 15, it was very much a man's show and it was edited in a certain way, and Jeff Probst treated men a certain way versus women a certain way. And this is all just coming out and happening, and yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. So that is what's going on with Survivor in the Survivor land. This has been your information session about Survivor. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, and then we're gonna get into the thesis update. So I will see you in just 1 second. Okay, welcome back to Grief Support Group. I'm your host, Alex Piscatelli, and we are back for a thesis update. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. I'm like, where do I begin? For those who are uninitiated, are first-time listeners to Grief Support Group, my thesis for my grad school program, my master's program that I'm graduating from, hopefully, LOL, no, I'm just kidding, I'm graduating in less than 2 months. I am doing a thesis that is examining how fans of teen dramas understand and interpret grief. So I did all my data collection, which was interviewing fans of these shows. I did my analyzing. I reanalyzed, and I reanalyzed again. But now I'm actually writing. Yes, I am writing. And obviously I said I would get a shit ton done during spring break. It is the Thursday of my 1 week spring break, so you can guess how that's going. Obviously I have today, I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I set a goal that I would be done by Sunday night. I think the goal has moved to Monday, but you know what? I'm going to get this shit done. I'm going to, and I feel good about it. When I said I feel good about it, this is not how I felt yesterday. I think I fluctuate, and I think my mood can change at a moment's notice. And I think that's good because that means I'm being honest. I'm being honest about how I feel, and I'm vibing and I'm feeling good. But yeah, so essentially where I'm at right now is I have all my themes down, which has like definitely changed. I spoke with my mentor, shout out to Dr. Nate. I spoke with him on Monday, and I ended up revamping and restructuring everything. And it put me in a place that I'm like, okay, I actually am ready to write now. So I restructured everything after talking to him, and then I kind of like re-put everything back where it needed to be. And now I am so last night I was like, oh my god, I'm so behind, this is so bad, it's literally Wednesday of my spring break, like what am I doing, you know what I mean? And then I just spent a couple hours and I literally put the structure that I want to discuss and just like I put it in like Mad Libs. Like I said, I put bracket discuss, like, because I was like, I don't feel like writing right now, but so I literally put all the quotes that I want to use, and I put them exactly how I want to use them. And then I just put discuss around the quotes. So what this means is it's plug and play at this point, baby. All I have to do is start writing, and then I'm good to go. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. I'm structured. I'm organized, I'm analyzed, I'm good. I just have to write. Of course, many could say this is the easiest part, and I've talked to people who said, you know what, your hardest part is done. All you have to do is write, like just, you got this. But for me, writing is so hard. Does anyone feel this way? Like, it's not like I'm watching a sunset and I'm like, ooh, let me go write my thesis. Like, I'm watching a sunset and I'm like, let me have fun. Let me live, laugh, love. Let me write in a zine. Let me giggle and laugh. Like, I'm not being like, ooh, let me write a thesis. So maybe this is good that I didn't get a PhD program, because that shit sounds horrible. But it's so funny because I was like, wait, I want to be an academic. And now I'm like, no, I'm creative through and through. But I actually am feeling good about it. I wrote down thesis LMAO, and then I wrote next, like, line, I'm low-key vibing. So I am kind of vibing. I think I'm in a good place. And what I'm going to do after I finish recording is I think I'm going to go sit at a coffee shop and get some work done. I haven't had coffee today because I was trying to convince myself that I must go to a coffee shop and work. So that's what it's going to be. That's what we're doing. But yeah, I think it'll be great. And one thing I wanted to talk about, because I've been talking about a theme each episode to kind of explore that on this show and talk about it a little bit and help me brainstorm, I guess, a little bit too. But one theme that emerged with literally every single person in that I interviewed was that they all so the theme is teenage representation in big emotions. So people come to these shows because they want a representation of their teenage years, of the teenage experience, of the things that they experience, whether it's love, heartbreak, grief, death, friendship, mental health struggles. All of these things people are seeking representation of because they had just lived those years and also are still living those years. I had focused on emerging adulthood as my focus. So this is from Arnett 2004, Emerging Adulthood, The Winding Road from the Late Teens Through the 20s. And it's this idea that when you're 18 to 25, but now they say up to 30, like you are in this emerging adulthood age. Like you are still figuring out your identity. You are figuring out who you are. You are figuring out your path and who you want to be. And I think this age group in particular, according to Meyer and Wood in 2013 on their paper on sexuality in teen television, emerging adulthoods respond to representations of queer identity on Glee. They really talk about how this emerging adulthood age is watching these shows to form their identities. So whether you're a teenager or whether you're my age, like you're watching this to understand yourself in some way, right? And so that is the people I interviewed. They fall in this emerging adulthood age group. So they're 18 to 30. And I find this particularly interesting because for these people who I interviewed, they were looking for shows that, yes, had this representation, but also had these big emotional moments because they talked about how growing up and being a teenager and going through very real things is a very emotional thing to do. It's a very big thing. You, as an adult, maybe have to repress your emotions in some way, but as a teenager, you can express these things and you can watch someone expressing these things, and it's more normalized to have, big outbursts of emotions or big feelings or what have you. And so, yeah, I found that all really, really interesting. And so, of course, I will be exploring it more in my thesis. I have many things to explore, much to write, much to do. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting how that theme in particular was the one that came up in every single interview, all 6 of them. I don't remember if the AI number 7 counted it. Of course, I'm not analyzing number 7 interview, but I found it interesting how that representation and that discussion of emotion came up in all 6 people. And I think about it with myself, like, why do I watch teen dramas? Because of course, The Summer I Turned Pretty, Never Have I Ever. I, even like if I think about movies, right? One of my favorite movies is The Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld. And all of these, of course, have grief as part of the storyline. All 3 of those that I just mentioned deal with a teenager who is dealing with parental death. Or teenagers who are dealing with parental death. And I don't think that's the reason. I think now at my age of 29.75, I think now I'm like, okay, I like when things discuss grief, but I don't think that's always been the driving force for me to love these shows. I think, of course, Never Have I Ever in the Summer I Turned Pretty, I think that's different. But like The Edge of 17, I think what I loved about, and what I still love about that one in particular, I mean, of course, it's the parental death and her having to deal with that. But I love how that movie feels like such a time capsule. I think it came out in like 2016, but I feel like Haley Steinfeld is like my age. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she's my age. And that movie felt so, because I graduated high school in 2014. It feels so like 2014 high school. And again, it came out a couple years after, I'm pretty sure, but it feels so much like a moment in time. The angst that she's experiencing, the way the friends act around each other, the way she interacts with the world feels very mid 2010s, and it feels like a time capsule. So for me, I watch that and I feel like, oh my God, I feel seen, or I can time travel and revisit how I felt back then. And I think that's a really salient thing for people. If you think about it, like the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary special just came out. And for me, I did not watch it, admittedly. I have seen clips all over. It's just, I feel like, okay, I loved Hannah Montana. I literally loved Hannah Montana, but I don't feel like this anniversary special is for me. Even though I just think of the Call Her Daddy of it all, like hosting and just like the Disney Plus, which I guess the original show is on Disney, whatever. But I just, even though it's like literally trying to speak to my exact demographic, I just feel like it's like not for me. But I feel like there's a difference between something that's so intentionally like nostalgia bait, I guess, in a way, versus something that is speaking to and calling to that piece of you that wants to be nostalgic but doesn't feel like it's so overtly so. Like for me, I'm not watching The Summer I Turned Pretty and Never Have I Ever. I mean, I love like stuff set in high school, in college, like, because yeah, I guess it is a nostalgic thing. I'm not watching The Summer I Turned Pretty seeing myself in Belly, you know what I mean? Like, I'm really not. But yeah, I guess it is like it is in some capacity calling to that identity formation and figuring yourself out time in life and trying to call you into that. So yeah, I think nostalgia obviously is a very powerful thing, and no one said the word nostalgia specifically, and I'm not going to say the word nostalgia specifically in my analysis, but just between you and I think nostalgia is so deeply intertwined with grief. I think it is grief because nostalgia is a longing or let's say an emotional feeling towards the past in some capacity, towards something that you can never get back again. And I think every day we're experiencing, and I know I've talked about this before, but like little deaths every day. Like I know I've talked about this before, but like how we will never get another March 26, 2026. That's a great date. Did you hear that, Dory? March 26, 26. That's a really good date. Anyway, we will never get that back again. And who knows, maybe 10 years from now, we will be nostalgic for 2026. And I'll be nostalgic for sunsets and making zines and sitting in my home studio with Dory behind me. Oh, yeah, I will be nostalgic for that. Her eyes are literally closed. She's sunbathing right now. Certainly will be nostalgic for that. But like we don't have nostalgia for the current moment, obviously, because we're living it, because we don't acknowledge that it's leaving the same way that we don't acknowledge death. You know what I mean? Like how could we cope and be like, oh, we'll never have this March 26th again. You know what I mean? You would not be able to handle that. So I think we need that sort of cognitive dissonance to function. Anyway, I'm obviously going on a tangent, but that has been my thesis update. Next, we are going to get into our advice questions, but first, I'm going to take a little bit of a water break. I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, welcome back to Grief Support Group. We are at the part of the show where we answer our advice questions. And we got really, really great ones this episode, which I'm so excited about. I know Dory's ass is excited. So let's get right into it. But first, if you have a question you would like to ask for a future show, you can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. That's bit.ly/KSFS advice. Okay, are we ready? Okay, let's get into it. So the first advice question asks this: would you ever invite an ex to a wedding, or is that just asking for drama? Now, you know my answer, but I think I know your answer. You know what I mean? So let me begin. Would I invite an ex to a wedding? Theoretically, yes. I'm dying to, actually. I, one, would love to be friends with an ex. Would love that. Two, I feel like if I had a big wedding, I would even be more inclined. My wedding was only like 40 people. So maybe not in that circumstance. Although if I was good friends with one, I certainly would. I am of the mindset, and I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again and I'll say it till the end of time. Be friends with your exes. Like, life is too short. You know what I mean? Like, you obviously, unless this person was evil, and they can be, men can be, unless they were evil, I feel like it's nice to be friends with an ex. I feel like if someone is friends with their ex, and I don't look down on anyone who's not, because I am not friends with an ex, and I think I'm great, but if anyone's not friends with an ex, or anyone is friends with their ex, I actually really I think highly of that. I think that's really cool. I think to me that says maturity. I think to me that says you ended because of like a mutual respect. Because I think to determine, this relationship isn't working, and to do so in a way that leaves no bad blood, I think that's a really mature and cool thing. So I love when people are friends with their exes. I don't feel like I know many people who are friends with their exes now that I'm thinking about it, but I do find it cool. And I do respect those people. Okay, so I said absolutely I would invite to an ex to a wedding. That being said, you said, is that just asking for drama? What does that mean? And is this your wedding or is this someone else's wedding? Like, are you inviting? I don't know, because you said to wedding. Oh no, you said invite an ex to wedding. Okay, well, you know what? I want to know more. I need more circumstance. I need more backstory. I need more background to fully make a determination. But I said, why the drama? Why would it ask for drama? Is the ex drama? Is the person you are marrying, if this is your wedding, would they find it drama? Would other people find it drama? Would the family who is involved be like, oh my God, you should be marrying them and not their spouse? So that's my question. I want to know what drama it would ensue. I think no matter what, the people who should be most comfortable at a wedding is the couple. I really don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks. In terms of how other people feel at the wedding. Obviously you want people to have fun, and that's part of it. But if it's a matter of I don't want this family member to see my ex because then they're going to ask questions and it's going to be a whole thing. That's not your problem. Who are they going to ask questions to? You're going to be celebrating and drinking champagne and vibing and dancing and perhaps doing karaoke and kissing and laughing. It doesn't matter what they think. So depends who the drama involves. Now, if the drama involves your spouse will have drama. Your spouse will feel a certain way. Yeah, no, don't invite the person. Is the ex drama? Does anyone object? Would the ex say, I object? Wait, is that in a wedding or is that a court of law? I don't know. But either way, if that's the situation, don't invite the ex. So who's the drama? That's what I want to know. But if the ex and then you two as a couple, if none of that, core three. I say it like the ex is like one of the most important, the MVP of the wedding. No, but like if you two and the ex like have no bad blood, have no beef, everyone's cool, everyone gets along, yeah, invite them. And then it also depends obviously on like your level of friendship with this person. Like I presume you're considering it because you care about them a lot. You probably spent a significant time of your life with them and you have memories with them, and there's someone that you want to help celebrate you and your relationship, then yeah, invite them. If you're having a 40-person wedding like I did and you're prioritizing your ex over like some of your friends, I don't know, then maybe not. But yeah, obviously you know the situation best. You know the vibes. You know if there will be drama or not. I think ultimately whatever decision you make will be the best one for you. But yeah, I would say I'm leaning yes. I'm leaning invite them. And if you want my opinion, I say do it. I say do it unless you or them is going to be weird about it. But if there's no weirdness, if it's all good vibes, then do it. Although there is something to say, and this is just me. Again, I had a 40-person wedding. I had a small wedding. This is a personal opinion. But I think there is something to be said about, do you want people who you don't know at the wedding? And why I say this is if it's your ex that you want to invite, but your partner has not met the ex before, like why? You know what I mean? I mean, some people have like 200 people wedding and they don't know some of the people on the other side, on like their partner's side of the wedding. That's fine. That's fine for some people. For me, I don't want that. I want to know every single person, and I want to know that everyone is gonna like be fine if I just dance the whole time, and that's what I want. For me, I don't want to talk to random people I don't know on my wedding night, but that's just me. So again, evaluate, you know the situation best, do what you need to do. I veer towards invite them, but ultimately assess what needs to be done. And I hope that makes sense. But yeah, invite them. Why not? That's if I had to give like a TLDR 1-word answer, invite them. Invite them, unless the drama, like, do you want this to be like a TV show, like a reality TV, like give confessionals, then up to you. You know what I mean? Okay. We are going to move to advice question number 2, but thank you so much for asking that question. And if anyone has an advice question they want to ask, you can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. And the Dory mascot update is she is laying and still sleeping. So this is obviously comforting to her. Okay, advice question number 2. Let's get right into it. So this person said, boyfriend casually mentioned on our 3rd date that his dad passed away when he was in high school. A few dates later, I told him I'd love to hear about his dad sometime if he wants to talk about him, and he said he'd like that, but we haven't yet. It's been 3 months, and I don't know how his dad passed, and we haven't talked about it much at all. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for asking this question. I just want to say, like, I talked to husband of the podcast, of the show, Jack, about this question, and he's like, wait, that's so like just cool that someone asked you that. And I'm like, yeah, that is cool. Like, this question honestly makes me feel really good. Sorry to make this about me. Oh my God. But I feel like this question makes me feel good because it's exactly what I want the show to be about. Like, you're navigating relationships and navigating like how to talk about grief and death and all these things. And I just really appreciate you asking me this question. Thank you so much. You have made me feel as though I've made it. But yeah, so for this question, I think I get what you're saying. Of course, I get what you're saying. You are dating this person, you're dating him, and you want to be there for him to talk about his dad, and you want to be that safe space for him. And I'm sure part of you too wants to like not only be that space for him to talk about his dad and about grief, but you also probably want to know because you want to better understand him. You probably want to know how he passed and what your boyfriend's experience was at that time and how your boyfriend feels now, not because you're nosy, but because you want to connect more deeply with your boyfriend and you want to understand him and you want to understand the person and the experiences that made him who he is today. So I love your question, and I want to preface what I'm about to say by saying I totally understand why you want to know. I totally get it, and I think you're an amazing person for that, because I think it means you care so deeply for your boyfriend. That being said, despite this all, I think you have to wait for him to bring his dad up. You have to. And this is something that it could take a while. It could be soon, but you absolutely have to wait for him to bring him up. You did what you need to do by saying, you're here you're happy to hear about him anytime, and you love to talk about his dad at any time. But you absolutely, I don't think you can ask him again. I'll caveat that by saying maybe later, or like if you do, I don't know if his mom is still alive and in the picture, or other family members, but if you meet other family members of his, like maybe then you can ask about his dad. But even that, you want to tread carefully. Oh my God. Because I guess I should preface this by saying, like if me, Alex, is one of the first people you know who talks about grief so openly and says, oh, ask people about their grief. Like, I think I am like a chronic oversharer. And so I don't think I'm the norm. So I don't necessarily want to say like, oh, be so forthright and ask people about his dad and about their dad or whoever you're asking, because, a lot of people maybe don't want to talk about it in that moment. And I'll give an example of, because I think my openness came from my mom dying, because now both parents and after my dad died, it was all my mom, like my mom and my sister, but like my mom's my family and the person I would call for everything, and the person that I always like talked about when people ask me about my family, and my sister too, of course. But like, I think when people ask me now, like, oh, your family, or where's your family live? Like I say, oh, my sister's in Rhode Island. And then they'll ask me again about my parents. I can't avoid it anymore. I have to talk about my parents being not dead to people. I have to. I can't avoid it. But when I was dating and my mom was alive, but my dad was not, if on a date someone asked me about my parents, I say, oh, my mom, lives in San Diego, and my mom is doing this and my mom is doing that. I don't mention my dad. And this worked because people didn't really ask follow-up questions. You'd have to be really fucking like, I feel like, of like not understanding what I'm saying if you're going to be like, oh, what about your dad? You know what I mean? Not saying you're doing that. I'm saying these people on the date, like if you like are obviously trying to avoid talking about him on a first date. Anyway, that being said, I have an anecdote and I'll describe it, and you're not doing this. I just want to share it for an example of people not talking about their grief. I remember so obviously my dad died when I was 17, December of my senior year of high school. So entering college and meeting new friends, and I did the trick where I only talked about my mom, right? But people knew my dad died, like, especially like on Instagram and stuff. Like at that time, I like the way I would talk about my dad is like on his birthday or on the day he died, like I would post about him. And I didn't bring him up because I didn't feel ready. I felt avoidant. I didn't feel comfortable, whatever. Like I remember all these good friends I was making in college. Like I wasn't talking to them about grief. Even though it was so raw, so fresh, I just wasn't talking about it. I remember, and I'm still friends with this person and I've forgiven them. And I didn't make a big deal out of it in the moment either, because for obvious reasons of what I'm about to say. But I remember it was like either after a party or instead of going to a party, we hung out at someone's house and we were all like drinking and smoking or whatever, like sitting in a circle. There must have been like 6 or 8 of us, or maybe 10. I don't know, less than 10. It was pretty intimate, but still like a big group. And one of my friends, like literally high, was like so high, was like, Alex, you've never told us about your dad. I was like, wait, what the fuck? I feel like I avoided it pretty well, but I'm like crossfaded. I'm like, why the fuck are you asking me right now? Like, what is going on? And I remember just in that moment feeling so like, oh my God, I've been like, I don't know, trying to pretend everything's so normal, and I am normal. It's not that grief is abnormal, but like not a lot of people, it's not normal to lose a parent so young. So for your boyfriend, it's not normal for him to have lost his dad already. But I felt so like othered in that moment. And I felt like, oh my God, like someone sees me as like different in a way, which I don't know. It sounded weird, but so that's one example. But then I had another example of something similar, someone seeing me, but in a different way. In college, I had a friend who I'm no longer friends with, actually, but I had a friend who I wasn't like super close with, but I liked him just fine. And he was like, we were alone, so this was like not in a social situation, but he was like, Alex, I see you. Like, I see what you do. Like, you lost your dad. Like, you've gone through a lot, but like, you're so like funny and you not avoidant, but I forget what he said, but he said something like, I see what you do. Like, I see how you don't talk about hard things in that way. And I just wanted to let you know, if you ever want to talk about it, like, I'm here. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, huh. And in that way, like, that makes you feel a little othered too, right? But you know someone is doing that because they understand you in a way, or they want to understand you, and they're noticing you. And I think both situations that I just described are people noticing me, but like one is private and comfortable and supportive, where the other one was embarrassing and othering and killing the vibe low key. Like, we're fucking, like, you're gonna make me panic. Like, I'm high, you know what I mean? And so I name these 2 examples because when my dad had died and when I only had lost of my parents, my dad, and that was my life, I wasn't talking about grief. I really wasn't. And I think it can seem not right now because like I have a show about grief. I write about grief. I research grief. But I wasn't talking about grief when only my dad died. And I wasn't comfortable to. And I wasn't thinking about grief in the same way. And when I missed him, it was so painful. And it's so painful to miss my mom and my dad now too. But I just approach it differently. And I feel like for me, it feels cathartic to talk about it now. Whereas then, and there's this, oh my God, this episode is getting long, but I want to address this because I really like this question. There's this process of grief, or the model of grieving, called the dual process model of grief. And it states that in grief, we oscillate between loss orientation and restoration orientation. So when you think I can't speak. When you think loss orientation, you're thinking of what you think of typically when you think of grief, right? Thinking about the person, longing for the person, all of those things. When you think of restoration orientation, this is like what just living your life looks like, right? Doing things, working, picking up the pieces, doing whatever you have to do, not as a distraction, but because you must do these things in grief. When you're working, but you may be working differently, but to other people, it doesn't seem that way. So grievers oscillate between these two modes of loss and restoration. And I think for me, when I lost my dad, I was so in the restoration orientation. I was thinking about him, but I wouldn't let myself think about him for too long. And I went back to school as normal, and I started college as normal, and I made new friends as normal, and I worked jobs as normal. And I did all these things in attempts to get through the grief by living as normal as possible, which is a way of grieving. That's grief. That's grief. It doesn't look like what we typically think of when we think of grief, but that is grief. And so why I bring all these things up and why I tell you this is because I'm sure your boyfriend it thinks about grief, but it may not be in a way that he wants to talk about it in this way all the time, but that doesn't mean he's grieving any less, and it doesn't mean he misses his dad any less. This is just his own way of processing. So I don't think you can, not that you are, but I don't think you can force someone to process differently. I don't think you can force him to oscillate into that loss orientation when he is in the restoration orientation. And you know what? He opened up to you probably in a way that he doesn't to a lot of people. He told you about his dad. Who even knows if he's told a lot of people that he meets since his dad died about his dad. So I think I think this is a great relationship. I literally know like 3 sentences about it, but I think this is a great relationship. I think you need to just continue to be there for him. You know, he knows you're open to hearing about his dad when he's ready to talk about it. Don't ask any more questions. Allow him to process and talk as he does best. Because I don't know how old y'all are, but like, he's probably doing this for years now. He probably has a way in which he likes to discuss grief and his dad. So let him and see what happens and just continue being there for him. Okay, well, this has been another episode of Grief Support Group. If you want to ask an advice for a future episode, you can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. This has been the first, well, not the first grief and media episode from home, but the first grief support group from home. So I hope all was well. Let me know how you liked this, and let me know if you liked the cussing. I love, what's Miranda Cosgrove say? She's like, my favorite cuss word, probably fuck. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I actually do feel that way. Okay. And I hope that didn't seem like I was making fun of Miranda Cosgrove. I do like her. Anyway, this has been another episode of Grief Support Group. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.